24 years ago, I got into radio. Was not my choice. People ask me that all the time. Oh, did you always want to be in radio? No, I had no idea, no inclination that I would ever go into radio. And despite that fact, I managed to host a morning show for 24 years at Sunday 95 in Columbus, Ohio. A great run, blessed, very successful. I loved it. And yet, it pisses some people off because there are some people out there, and God bless you, I know who you are, I've met you, I see you, that that's all they wanted to do was go into radio. And the fact that I waltzed in and got on a morning show and stayed on a morning show without paying my supposed dues by working overnight shifts or afternoon shifts or doing anything else at a radio station that might actually shine some light on me and say, pick me to move up to the next level, piss some people off. I kind of disagree a little bit. Whatever you do in life sometimes leads to another path. I paid dues of a different kind. I was a stand-up comedian, and as a result of being a stand-up comedian, I became a guest on the show, and one thing led to another. So yeah, what I did prior to going into radio kind of paved the way a little bit. Was it a shorter path? Abso-fucking-lutely it was. And would I have gone the other way and worked really hard? You know what? If that's what I really wanted to do, yeah, I would have done that. But it's not the way it worked out. But it did work out in a magnificent way. And I take my hat off to those people who have strived and worked really hard to get where they are in the radio business. I take my hat off to you. You are radio professionals. I don't know how you do it or how you did it, but I hope that you keep on doing it. And I am no longer in radio. I'm out. I'm doing this, drinking whiskey, smoking cigarettes, and talking to people about a garden variety of things. And tonight, one of them is going to be radio. But first, the guest bottle. Hi, welcome to Whiskey Business. I'm Dino Tripodis, Whiskey Business, a podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey, as I adjust to the new microphone setup. The guest bottle tonight is Old Scout 107. I'm very hopeful. Old Scout 107, American whiskey, not a bourbon, an American whiskey. I was not really thrilled with the Old Scout American whiskey regular, for lack of a better word. But our good friend John Whitney, who produces the YouTube side of this podcast, picked it up from Kentucky. This is interesting. It's a blended whiskey. It's made of bourbon from Indiana and whiskey from Tennessee. It's a blended whiskey, but they can't actually call it bourbon because it's recharred in oak casks, which kind of disqualifies it from the calling it bourbon, despite the fact that the mash is actually in there. It's as close to being bourbon as probably something we'll ever get, and I'm very excited about trying it. So that's our guest bottle, the Old Scout 107. We'll sample that and see how that is and see what our guest thinks about it. Greg Hansberry has a little bit of business that we need to do before we actually get things rolling.
That's right. Whiskey Business is on... this is the editing part. Subscribe to Whiskey Business on your favorite podcasting app. Rate and review us on iTunes, please and thank you. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Whiskey Business Podcast. Mm-hmm. We've got a new Twitter account.
We do.
Whiskey Biz Show, B-I-Z.
B-I-Z.
Plus, you mentioned John Whitney, our YouTube director, producer. We have a YouTube channel, Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis.
We're everywhere.
Everywhere. You can find, we've got unedited episodes, some cool shorts behind the bottle, different things that you can't find anywhere else but on YouTube. But that's it. And plus, last but not least, spread the love with all your degenerate whiskey-loving friends. Thank you.
With all your degenerate whiskey-loving friends, which is one of our guests tonight. Speaking of loving degenerates, a man who I've known for a long, long time, Randy Malloy, is our guest tonight. He is the owner. And also the president. Would you call yourself the president as well?
Sure, yes.
Yeah, the president and owner of CD 102.5. For those of you who live in Columbus, Ohio, you probably remember its humble beginnings as CD 101 back in the day. And Randy Malloy is the man behind that operation. And when I was babbling on earlier about those people in radio who started from very humble beginnings, this is what I was leading up to, because I'm actually going to hit this probably a lot. I'll try to avoid it. This is a new setup that Hansberry put for me, and
we can switch it.
So far, it's not working out very well. I apologize.
I think you need it much higher.
Much higher.
I think it needs to be like Lemmy from Motorhead. You have to be like screaming up at it.
Maybe. But Randy Malloy started as an unpaid intern in promotions at CD 101.
Yes.
And how old were you at that time?
I moved to Columbus in 1987 from New Jersey. I went to school at Ohio State, and I started there in the fall of 1991.
Was it something that you wanted to do, or was it just, oh, this could be fun?
Basically, I get to hang out with the rock stars, and someone else is going to pay for my booze.
That was the dream.
Yeah, well, that was kind of it, I worked, my jobs when I was here in Columbus. My first job was working at the Newport Music Hall. I walked in the door. I just moved to Columbus. I was living up the street from the Newport Music Hall, and I walked down. There was a sign on the door that said "Help Wanted," and I walked in. There's no one there. I'm like, "Hello, hello, hello." Out of the sort of the dark recesses of the hall comes this big bald motherfucker, who's just like, "What do you want?" I'm like, and said, "Help Wanted" on the door, and I'm this 20-something-year-old kid, and he's kind of walks right up to gets my face. He's like, "Can you handle yourself?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Can you handle yourself?"
Handle yourself.
And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Can you handle yourself?" And right in my face. I'm like, "Get the fuck out of my face." And he goes, "You start tonight." I was like, okay. His name was Terry Paul, TP, as everyone referred to him. Terry's gone on to, unfortunately, that faraway land that we call heaven. But
or hell.
Down there's a likelihood that it could be there too.
Let's keep a positive thought.
Keep it right. But yeah, so my first, I went to lots of shows growing up in New Jersey and New York. I saw the Ramones, and I went to CBGB's, and I saw lots of concerts, but I really didn't have any aspirations of working in the business. It just, okay, I'm, working the stage. So, I saw George Thorogood and realized, wow, what a jackass he was. And, but then quickly realized, if you want to make the real money, I'm going to go be a bartender. So I was a bartender.
You're a good bartender.
I'm a really good bartender, actually. I'm still a good bartender. I'm still a good bartender.
You still have an excellent skill set when it comes to making drinks.
I do. Thank
you.
Well, I own a bar now, so hey, why not? But I did that, and I worked bartending when I was in school, and the opportunity came for an internship. I was the president of the Ohio State University Ski Club, the infamous Ohio State University Ski Club, which anyone does any research can read all sorts of the shenanigans that went on with the ski club over the years.
Did you guys actually ski?
We did. We did skiing. Nothing locally. Skiing was we skied the Pines every Wednesday night at one of the local bars with, the 2,000 members we had. And we bought lots of kegs, and there was a lot of shenanigans. But we did do a ski trip twice a year out west.
I like shenanigans.
Yeah,
shenanigans are one of my favorite things to get into.
To shenanigans.
You and I have gotten into some shenanigans over the years.
Shenanigans has occurred. But so, we did ski. We would do a west trip, usually at Christmas time, and then one for spring break. So, we got some good skiing in Utah, Park City, Wyoming, Jackson Hole, Breckenridge, Vail. So we had some nice ski trips. But Warren Miller was a filmmaker who made these great epic ski movies back in the day. And, he did heli skiing, and he did cliff jumps and, everything. And at the time, CD 101 was doing a Warren Miller film showing along with a ski swap with Aspen Ski and Board or something. And being with the ski club, they wanted to get some exposure to the students. So I was contacted at the university by Wendy Steele, who unfortunately has also gone on to the great beyond, and I'm assuming she's more likely heaven, but there's definitely a chance she's also in that other place because there was shenanigans.
Yeah. And who's to say that hell's all that bad? I mean,
It's true. Well, aren't we in it now? Isn't this it? Did you even pay attention to CNN today?
Yeah.
I mean, it pretty much was hell.
We could be
at
in
least
hell
for
as
some
we speak.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some people. So that was sort of my exposure. I had listened to the station since it went on the air, but that was sort of my exposure. And I asked, hey, do you guys have internships? Because I was going to graduate in, half a year or so. And they said, well, we're working on that. I said, okay.
So they were also relatively...
Well, they had been in... The station came on the air August 21st of 1990, but it was actually built and run by a company out of New Jersey called Video Services. And they were like a house flipper. They would come and find like an underutilized market. They would build the radio station, and the minute they got the approval from the FCC for the building permit, they put it for sale. And that's exactly what they did. So it was a placeholder for the first year until it was bought by a local businessman named Roger Vaughn, who lived in Arlington. He had done development out west and had listened to a radio station called KBCO, which was kind of like a Jack FM format that you'd consider today. They played everything. The jocks were allowed to play whatever they wanted, pretty much, and it was this very eclectic mix. And he was very passionate about radio. So he purchased it and pretty much cleaned house, except for, honestly, one of the only people that was left was Andy Man. And that was actually how you and I met.
Right.
And again, unfortunately, Andy has gone on to the great beyond.
We'll talk a little bit more about Andy a little bit later on the podcast. But
that was sort of... Okay, so you're going to do internships? I said, well, I want to be an intern. So I was like one of the very first interns. It was me and Bill Danamiller, I believe. We were like simultaneously the first two kids that ever interned at the radio station. And I'll always remember my first day, because my first day was, you're going to wait for this guy who's going to come get you. And sure enough, here comes this big white ice cream truck, and it was like the old GD Ritzy's ice cream truck.
Right.
We still have it to this day. 1982 Chevy step van, biggest pain in my ass of the entire radio station existence. Breaks down all the time, won't start in the winter. It's an old diesel monster, and I just hate it. But I really love you. Please don't not start for me.
Yeah.
Because.
But you got to hang on.
But you got to hang on to it. But I'll never forget. this truck pulls up, the door opens up, and there's this guy who goes, "Get in!" And sure as shit, Andy Davis. And I was like, and that was literally, it was like, get in, let's go. And we went to an Ohio Glory football game.
Oh, wow.
At the Horseshoe.
Wow. The Ohio Glory.
The Ohio Glory. And that was my first day at the radio station. And it was just like, boop. And that's when I met Andy. And there's a picture in my office of that first encounter. Literally, someone got a picture of the two of us, and we looked like pups. Because we were.
Yeah.
We were both, 20-something-year-old guys. And he had already been on the radio, and he was, DJ and well known, and I'm just this new kid, like,
Was that his first radio gig?
Yes,
as well, right?
He was moving furniture before that.
Right.
He was a guy from Pataskala, and he literally was moving furniture.
Yeah.
So,
because I remember when he got the gig, he was just beside himself with joy, because obviously he loved the job that he had.
Yeah.
He loved music and everything else. Like I said, we'll get into that a little bit more. What did you study at Ohio State?
Communications.
Communication. So
I had taken radio and television classes, and I had done editing and stuff, and so it was sort of like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I could. Sure, why not? I like, hey, so I get to hang with rock stars and someone's going to buy my booze. I'm like, cool. This is a good internship to see about getting me into the biz, getting me into the field.
Did you have aspirations of being on the air?
Because,
like I said, I've known you for a long time, and you're a very personable guy, and
I never have really thought about it. Honestly, I would be bored. I'm not good at not having an audience. I want an audience. I would not be a good communicator without having that immediate interaction.
That was probably my biggest stumbling block in the beginning was I was used to being on stage and having an audience, and now it was hard for me to process the fact that there's still an audience out there. I just can't see them.
Right.
So as a result, I made him and my co-host and my news director my audience. My audience of 3, but if I could make them laugh or amuse them, then
Right.
then maybe I was cutting through out there as well.
Exactly, and that's exactly it. And when people say,
But you couldn't adjust to that. You couldn't.
I never thought about it because I just didn't. I was just like,
Didn't
because
you think though? Didn't you over the course of the years?
Absolutely.
Didn't you think I got something I could bring to
Always.
the table?
Always.
I could do this.
I thought about that 6 months ago. I always think about that. But it's just, I think my window of opportunity is long come and gone for that career path.
You think?
Yeah, but at least being on the radio, I do my YouTube videos and, I do Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and I do my stuff. But yeah, I don't, me sitting in the studio, I don't know. I would be, again, I would need to have an audience right there because I need that interaction. Because being a DJ is actually a lot harder than you think.
Oh, hell yeah.
But
I don't know if he does know.
But again, not having that interaction to entertain a crowd of no one is hard because you don't have that feedback. You don't know if your joke went over.
It's interesting that people sometimes it's always kind of pissed me off a little bit. Once I realized, okay, I'm actually making a career out of this.
Right.
And people would always say, "Oh, dude, you got the easiest job in the world.
Monkeys can do it.
You got the easiest job in the world. You go in and you talk for 2-3 minutes. You play a song, and I talk for 2 or 3 minutes every day for 4 hours, 5 days a week. 52 weeks out of the year. Well, maybe not 52 weeks. 48, give or take. But my point being is and was able to do it for 24 years. That's not an easy thing to do.
No, not at all.
Not an easy thing to do. No. So, yeah, that's like, all right, fine, go ahead, you do it.
Right, that's what I tell people. I say, if you think it's so easy, do it, because it's not. And again, that's why I guess I've never thought about doing it, because I realized how hard it is to be on and entertain. And then, again, without that audience feedback, it's a lot harder than you would imagine, because how do you know if that joke went over? And it was funny because I think it's hilarious because I am hilarious.
Consistency.
Consistency
right. is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Being able to go there and do it again and do it again and do it again. Sure, if you go in there and you knock it out of the park for one day,
good
for you.
You're a great guest.
Yeah. Now, exactly. You're a great guest.
A great guest.
Now come back and do it again tomorrow.
Right.
Oh, really?
Again?
I'm out of material.
That was. I gave you the whole backstory. That was 25 years of my life.
Why? Growing up in New Jersey, and I see pictures of you and videos of you going back east and loving life. What brought you to Columbus, other than Ohio State University? I mean, what was the draw? Why would somebody that in my romantic opinion is living on the East Coast where so many things are happening? Why would you come to that particular point in time anyway, to the sleepy little town of Columbus, Ohio, which it was kind of sleepy at the time.
Absolutely sleepy.
It was the Ohio State University, and that was it.
That was it. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the short north was hookers and drug dealers.
Yeah.
I mean,
good times.
The good old days.
The good old days, yeah.
I'm so sleepy.
You're
going to make me pine.
Now it's an urban mall. It was not that in 87, I'll tell you that. Oddly enough, so, I went to school. When I graduated high school, I did not go to college right away. I was not mature enough to do it.
You were doing a gap year before a gap year was a thing?
I did a gap couple of years.
Did you really?
I worked. I was not ready to go to. I worked in a photo lab, 1 hour photo lab. I worked at propane.
Did you look at all the pictures?
Every single one. Every single one. And we made doubles. So, you're going to ask that next.
I was wondering about that.
And we made doubles. Absolutely.
You got to see this.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was before, that's when film was film. You wanted pictures. Fastest you got it was an hour later.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Many times.
No one will ever see this.
And the truth be told, I worked with 4 women. So there would be times that they'd be like, "Oh, you're going to the counter for this one," because they knew it, because they were just back there laughing on the floor because here's dick pics or whatever, and it's just like, here you go, sir. Here you go, ma'am, and just they look at you like, did they actually look at these pictures?
look at 'em?
And, the machine's sitting there flipping them past. And we had a little black screen we would put down if they were inappropriate so you couldn't see them from the counter.
Right.
But, oh, yeah, they would pretty much figure out right away because I'd be like, with this just shit-eating canary grin, I'm like, yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice,
Somebody's going to enjoy that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Other than you. Us.
That's funny.
So you worked at a photo
So
lab?
I worked
and
in a
then-
photo lab. I delivered flowers. I worked at a place that did shipping and receiving, and we shipped propane parts. So like you name it, like tanks to little like ball valves to pigtails to everything you can imagine for propane.
So you just work to work.
To work, yeah. That was.
Was
that
there a goal like I got to work and make money to do this?
No, it was
Or is
just
this-
work. Just because I just, wasn't ready to go to school yet. I was too immature. I was lucky if I had puberty by the time I was 18. I was
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was.
When you say immature, were you an idiot?
No, not an idiot. Just again, it was.
And I say that with affection.
Of course. No, we lived. I got to live a rock star lifestyle. We drank and partied and had fun. It was the late 70s, early 80s. New York City was, a train ride away.
Right.
We were in every weekend. to
Where in
go
New
see
Jersey did
music.
you live?
It's called Clark, New Jersey. Yeah.
Means
we
nothing to
we
me.
were white punks on dope. That's what it was. We all, the ones that went to college did, the ones that didn't, they got jobs.
Right.
So, at some point I was like, okay, I need to go to school. So I went to Union College. And then
Which is in New Jersey?
in New Jersey.
Okay.
Yep. So I got an English degree, and I was like, well, this is going to serve me no purpose whatsoever.
Oh, you don't know that.
Well, I wasn't going to be a teacher. And then
It's made you more well-rounded.
well-rounded. And then I went to school, back to school, and for 2 years, and I drove an ambulance. So I was a first responder for 2 years.
When you say you drove an ambulance,
drove an ambulance.
You drove the ambulance. You didn't actually. Did you get out of
No,
the ambulance?
I was a medic.
You were a medic.
I went to I went to school for 2 years to learn to be a medic.
Oh wow!
And so
now see all the years that I've known you, no idea about that.
And that's actually one of the things that kind of changed my world a little bit, because it was life and death. It was real life, and it was intense, and the shit went down. You get an unknown MVA, and you get there, and it's like, okay, it's a fender bender, or you get there, and literally there are body parts laying in the street. And you're like,
man.
and I'm in charge. I have to make decisions like, who do you call? Who do you fix? And so you had to be trained for this stuff, and it was intense. It was intense.
You say you drove? Did you drive it as well?
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
drove it, then got out and
Yep.
and
yeah, because
and
there was
people.
times that because it was a emergency squad, we got to do stuff. The fire department didn't get to use the jaws of life, and they hated the emergency squad for it. So we got to rip the cars apart, where they had to stand by the big angry firemen watching, skinny kids rip apart cars, and they had to wait their turn basically.
Wow.
They're, okay, lift the roof off now, guys, as I'm with the jaws of like cutting the steering column to get a trapped person out.
Was there any, as you look back on those days, was there anything that really affected you and
Absolutely.
and changed you?
Oh yeah, that's what
What was it?
stopped me. There's a couple things. One, I'll never forget. It was wow. It was Easter Sunday, and I was on call that weekend, and we got a call to a house. I pull up in the rig with another person, and there's cop cars everywhere. And we get there and they're like, come on, get in. And there's this big Italian family there, Easter Sunday. And the son was committed, and he was home for the weekend and had an episode.
Oh boy.
And there was 7 cops holding this 16-year-old kid down and barely holding him down. Knee in his back, arms pulled back, and 7 cops could not keep this kid restrained. He was flailing, literally flinging cops off of him. And the parents mom and dad are there, the family, the grandmothers, the little kids, they're just in tears. And it's just, so I'm like, fuck. So we went and got a thing called the Reeves stretcher, which is, imagine a big piece of canvas with wooden slats in it. So it sort of unfolds. It's almost like how you would make sushi. And that's you kind of slide it under them and roll it around them and wrap them up in it.
Wow.
So they can't move. And he was bouncing this thing off the ground. So we took him to an evaluation to Elizabeth, New Jersey. And, I'll never forget because we get there and we took 2 cops with us. We had to put their guns up front. And I'm driving, the guns are up front and the 2 cops are back there just kind of, holding this kid who's, strapped to the gurney. The gurney's, bolted to the floor kind of thing. And he's bouncing it. He's, you can see he's still moving it. We get to the, ER and they, okay, we'll do an evaluation. The nurse is like, go ahead and time. And I was like, you aren't untying shit. I was like, absolutely not. I was like, lady, 7 cops couldn't hold this kid down. I'm not even going to get near this kid until you get a doctor in here that can evaluate him. So, the doctor comes in, he has a chart. He's like, okay, boop, pokes the kid with, whatever amount of lithium. About 3 seconds later, he was drooling. He's like, you can untie him now. And that was it. Anthony was his name. And we drove him an hour back to his place. And we got back there and, we get back and the orderlies come out and they're like, oh, Anthony. And it was just the emotion, though, of this family that was just, they were devastated by this kid. Just, obviously they loved him dearly, but, it just, they couldn't do anything. Literally there was 7 cops trying to hold this kid down because they didn't cuff him. He's a 16-year-old kid,
right.
But they couldn't contain him because he was just, he had a real mental issue.
Did you get burned out on that job?
I did. The last one, we joked about it. We'd get there and, sometimes you had to joke, you had to make, jokes about someone cut fingers off and we're like whistling like, here fingers, because you had to.
A gallows humor.
Right, yeah. It was. You had to. The one that got me the most was, and it was sort of the same thing, we showed it was a transport. Just a transport. You're going to take the guy to the hospital. We get there and, here's this guy who's just sitting there in the chair going, I just need to get a ride to the hospital. I'm like, okay, beautiful home, and there's this beautiful wife and 2 young kids. And he had cancer and it had metastasized and he had days to live. And he just looked like you and me. And he just, I'm done. And I just need to go back to, I'm going to go to the hospital for a test. And, the look on the kids' faces and the mom and the just death. You felt it. It was palpable. I literally was like, I can't do this. I was like, I can drive. I can't. I literally am going to well up because it was just so, literally, I never felt death like that in my life. Because he's alive. He looked perfectly fine, just like you and me. And he's like, I'll be dead in a week. And it was just like, and that was it. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And it was like, I'm done.
I think I'm just speculating here, but I would have to think that you would have to have a certain amount of empathy to do that job. And then also, but by also having that empathy, it's a blessing and a curse because you have to have it to do it. And then also, if you have empathy, you're going to feel it and it's going to
right.
get
And that's the thing. You had to really distance yourself from it because sometimes it was hilarious. The adrenaline rush, driving 80 miles an hour, lights and sirens going to an unknown something was awesome. Yeah. It was crazy. It was insane.
How do you not drive like that all the time?
Right. Well, I do. I'm from New Jersey. Yeah. Have you ever driven with me? everyone, no one wants to drive with me because they're all afraid. Yeah. But you did have sort of a black soul and there was a black hole in you because you had to, because some of the stuff was, I remember we went to one and, this was one of those things where, we get there and the cops are just like you get there and you can already see the look on their face and, mom and dad are screaming and, I can smell the cordite already. We heard a loud noise from our son's room and you can smell the cordite the minute you walk in the door and I'm just like.
Smell the cordite.
When you fire a gun.
Okay.
The gunpowder smell. Yeah. And you already knew. It's like you could smell it. As you walk up the stairs, you can smell the blood, the iron. And just we just sort of get to the closed door and you just kind of look at each other like, take a deep breath, because God knows what you're gonna see. And here's this kid who put a shotgun under his chin. And wow. And and mom and dad are just like, what happened? And you're just like, ugh. You pretty much have to tell him that Johnny is, done.
So you take a break and you come to Columbus, Ohio.
Well, and that's and it was.
Yeah.
Part of that was People's Express airline existed.
I remember People's Express.
People's Express, best thing ever. Flighted from Newark to Boston for $12.
Yeah.
We did that one 4th of July. Flew out, packed plane. You pay your $12 on the plane. We went there. We went to a party. Got hammered in Boston as the fireworks are going over the bay. We fly out. It was me and my buddy who went up and 2 guys, business guys, that were just shitbagged laughing on the plane. That was it on the way back. And the stewardess was just like, ugh, whatever. And just went in the cockpit and left us on the plane. So we raided the plane. We drank all the bottles and walked around and looked at every compartment. Nobody cared. This was back in the 80s. You know, it was like, who cares?
When air travel was fun.
When air travel was crazy.
Thanks, Bin Laden.
Were there still smoking sections?
There were smoking sections, right?
There were
Even though you're in a
smoking
fucking tube.
Even in a tube. But it cuts off right here.
Right here.
Yeah, because
You're in a
that
fucking
was the most
tube.
ridiculous thing I've ever imagined in my life.
But so I at a Halloween party, I met a girl named Stephanie Camp, and just fell in love with her. My first like real love, I guess, and dated her. And she went to school. She moved away to go to school to Ohio University. So People's Express Airline to the rescue. I flew out to Columbus, $25 round trip. I would leave on a Friday, and I found the ride board at Ohio State. So I was making money. I had these kids pick me up from the airport. They'd drive down to OU. I'd pay for their gas. They'd bring me back afterwards. I'd hop on a plane and fly home. So I did that a couple times. I drove out a couple times, and I was like, Columbus, Ohio, interesting. So when I decided I was going to go back to school, I thought I wanted to go into something medical, and I was going to be a physical therapist.
Given the experience.
Right. I said, I'm going to be a physical therapist. One semester of, organic chemistry.
Science.
Done. Done.
Not for me.
I was like, I'll stick with communications.
Yeah.
But so I applied to some schools, and I applied to Ohio State. I got accepted as a out-of-state resident. That was when you could get into Ohio State, not with a 4-point.
Dude, trust me.
Right.
I went to Ohio State University as well.
That was when they pretty much allowed you to get in.
We've said it on the podcast before. If you were a resident of the state of Ohio, I went to school back in the day where they had to take you. They didn't have to keep you, but they had to take you, no matter what your grade point average was.
Out-of-state tuition, checkbook, and a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You're in, son.
You're in.
So that's how I got in that meandering way to Columbus, Ohio.
And obviously,
I followed her out, and I followed out to but we broke up before I even moved out here. But I just said, well, you know what? Columbus seems like it's a cool place. I can go be me. I can reinvent myself, be something different.
Did you though? Did you reinvent yourself? I mean,
yeah.
When you say
totally.
reinvent yourself, though, I mean, there had to have been
out,
elements of Randy Malloy that still carried over.
Still to this day.
When we say reinvent yourself, you mean as far as a career?
No, not really. I mean, just in general. I mean, I stood out like a sore thumb because I'm obnoxious.
A little.
Right. I mean, gregarious, okay? But I'm obnoxious.
Yeah.
I mean, I am not afraid to make comments, ask questions. I'm not shy. I'm not intimidated by stuff.
It served you well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was very easy. It took me a very short amount of time to have this feeling like, okay, this is, a very, from the pace of world that I came from, this is a very different pace.
Right.
So I feel that I'll be able to, excel here. And that's kind of why it's like, okay, I can do this.
So you start as an intern in promotions.
Yep.
And do you think it's gonna, it's just a stepping stone or something?
Sure.
Do you think it's gonna last? Do you think you're gonna leave that station at some point?
I didn't really.
Or all of a sudden do you see like, hey, maybe I can move to this next level?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe the next level. And that spring, they said, "Oh, do you want to have a job here? Do you want to be the assistant promotions director?" My boss, it was Wendy Steele, and she was the marketing director, so I was the assistant to no one. And again, my attitude was, so basically, you're gonna pay me to hang out with rock stars, and someone's gonna buy my beers.
I'm in.
I'm like, I'm in. Sure, why not?
Sure. So you start doing that.
So I started doing that.
And then one thing leads to another.
Yeah, one thing led to another. Wendy Steele, she, our first home was at 1721 South High Street. And we were there from 92, I'd say, to 96. So about 4 years in this little shoebox on the south end of Columbus. And when we moved to the new location, Wendy just didn't want to do it anymore because the promotions world drains you. I mean, you're out 5-6 nights a week. You're going to shows. I mean, I worked 100-hour weeks.
Right.
And you're burning the candle on both ends, morning, noon, and night. I mean, if I didn't go into work hungover, it was an off day. Because you were out at, we're going to this concert tonight, this meet and greet tonight, this night, this night, and every day was a party. So it was like, woohoo!
It's nice when that's part of your job description.
Right. But she didn't want to do it anymore. She was burned out. She couldn't do it. So she wanted to transition to sales, and I said, okay, let's do this. Let's sort of have a united front. I'll help you transition to sales with management, and I'll step up and take your job if you think I can do it. She goes, you're in. And I said, let's do it. And we kind of formulated the plan, and that was what we did. So when we moved to our location at 503 South Front Street, she went into sales. I took over the marketing position.
Wow. And off you went.
And off I went.
Yeah.
Yep.
And never looked back, so to speak. So, what are all the positions that you held at the radio station before you actually had the crazy notion to purchase it? I mean,
well, I was assistant promotions director,
right,
marketing director, director of operations,
right,
general manager,
yeah,
and then president
and president,
owner.
So you never got into the program.
No, never
got
on the programming side.
Never got into the programming side of it. Never
or
became
the
the
sales.
program director or the sales side. You just.
I mean, I did sales, in the respect that I, was always selling, always, bringing clients to the table or whatever, creating relationships. I'm a good relationship person, but no, the programming wasn't my forte. I love the music, but yeah, that wasn't my gig.
Interesting, because and now let's just. I'm going to take it piece by piece here. You become the general manager, which is pretty much you're running the joint.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you say goes. You can actually say to the program director, "I don't want this person on the air anymore."
Correct.
You can make those decisions.
Yes.
I want to fall back a little bit to Andy Davis, who still to this day is iconic.
Absolutely.
In respects to the history of CD 1025 and formerly CD 101. As a now owner of the company, and I'm asking this almost as a devil's advocate type of question, because I loved Andy.
Oh yeah.
I loved him dearly. We hung out
together.
Yeah. We had
thick as thieves.
We had long early morning nights.
Oh yeah. No.
Forever and a day, but and this might be a tough question for you to answer. I don't know. Is it good that there's still that iconic presence, or does it prevent the station from moving forward on some level?
No, I think it's both. I don't think it's prevented us from moving, and I think it's good that there's a presence. It's history.
It is history.
It's history. It's part of our heritage. It's part of our backstory.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember literally when we were told on July 1st of 2010 that we were going to move from 101 to 102.5.
Yeah.
Andy Davis and myself both looked at that, and we had conversations about, hey, maybe this is, if he's going to sell it, maybe we can get part ownership. Maybe we can do this together. Maybe this is something, maybe. And, 18 days later, he's gone.
I know.
But I mean, literally from 18 days from the time that it was sort of a publicly announced that 101 was going to become 102, we formulated plans. We talked that Friday before he, passed away on that Sunday about doing just that. When, when he comes back, hey, let's talk. Let's, think about how can we leverage this, and maybe we can then have jobs forever and do this as,
Were you concerned that when you moved from 101 to 102.5 that you were going to lose some identity in the process?
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, how couldn't you? I mean, I took a concerted effort, and we took an entire year from July 1st to July 1st. We were 101 at 102.5. Even against the grain, and thankfully, I mean, I got to give the people at WOSU thanks, because our contract didn't allow us to use 101 anymore.
Right
after the sale in the December of 2010, but they let us deal with 101 at 102.5 all the way through till the following year, because I knew that transition brand would take forever. And still to this day, people are like, oh, I thought 101 went away. It's like, well, we're 102, and they still don't know it.
They still don't, yeah.
Right.
It's interesting how a brand
absolutely
gets burned into the consciousness of people.
Yes.
It's like, I worked at Sunny 95. If all of a sudden it was Sunny, and even though 94.7, it was Sunny 95, but if all of a sudden it was Sunny 97,
or even if you weren't,
right,
or even if you were, Evolution 95,
right? No,
not at all, right?
Not working.
So it was a hard road to hoe, absolutely. But I mean, we've kept Andy's sort of his celebrity alive with the things for the Andy Manathon.
Right.
We have a shrine in the office to him. You pretty much can't go to any room in the building without seeing something.
And I
from
think
pictures to everything
and
else.
good for you.
Because he was part of it.
Good for you. I mean,
he was
talking
part
about
of
a
that.
guy that was in a part of the grassroots
Absolutely.
Of that place.
Right.
And like I said,
And that's why I lovingly
loved all the things that he did there, loved his
Totally.
job, loved the people, and was completely unselfish about everything he did, and
Right.
just whatever was for the better good of the community.
Absolutely.
The people he was involved with. So yeah, good for you.
No, I mean he was.
for kind of keeping that essence
He
present.
He was a physical presence. I mean,
Yeah.
if people that knew Andy, he was a big guy.
Yeah.
He's 6'4", 300+ pounds. You couldn't miss him walking into a room.
No.
He had paws. He didn't have hands. He'd grab a pitcher of beer like I would grab a pint glass,
Yeah.
and you'd be like, "Damn, you're a big man."
It's a big man.
And he hugged you. He didn't. He was
did.
like, "I hug, brother."
Yeah.
And he gave you a hug. And I had him hug me every day because it would crack my back.
Uh-huh.
I didn't go to a chiropractor till years later because he would fix that every day.
Oh God, I remember.
But he was a hugger, and he would make anybody feel comfortable. He had that charisma about him because he was this big teddy bear. This big teddy bear guy with this big bellowing, booming voice.
Yeah, great voice.
Right.
Charming as fuck.
Charming as all get out.
Was able to.
He could
Talk-
either diffuse any situation or create any situation.
Oh yeah, he created. He created many a situation.
Right, but
there was many a day. As much as I love that man, where I went to work in the morning. Cursing him because I'd be at his bar at the Treehouse that he picked up at the time, sitting there at 10 o'clock at night, still a reasonable hour for me, being keeping the night owl hours that I kept, and thinking like, I got to wrap it up. I got to be at work at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, don't be a pussy. Have another drink with me. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it'd be midnight. and then all of a sudden it's like
2 a.m.
It's 2 a.m. And then the bar would close.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'd still be in the bar, and I'd be looking at like it's 3:30 in the morning, and I'd still be there with Andy, and I go, dude, I got to be at work in an hour and a half. And what would he say? That sucks for you.
I was going to say,
it's your fault.
His words aren't, that sucks for you. Right, exactly.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it does. It does sound. But God love it. And when the sad incident occurred. Help me out here because you called me. You called me
Yep.
and told me,
Yes.
right? It was
Yes.
you. It was you that called and told me, and I was like everybody. I'm sure
Right.
that you told at that particular point was just like in complete denial.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yep.
It's just not possible.
Yeah, I got a call, and I remember it was a Sunday afternoon, and his wife Molly called me.
Yeah.
And I was at home, and I just kind of was like, okay. And I remember I just kind of like, and this is it sort of went back to almost like in the ambulance training.
Right.
Honestly, I literally was like, okay, I need to take care of this. And I walked out the door and went down to the station and started calling people and said, I need you to come down to the office. I didn't tell anyone why, so you just need to come to the office. And as people came in one by one, I would tell them. And once I got pretty much the staff told, we went on the air. Yeah. And it burst into a party, a celebration, and people came out of the woodwork to help.
Yeah.
Adam Contras flew in from California and volunteered his time for a week to help us, just deal with it. And it was tumultuous and it was crazy. I remember, we had been there all day and all night, and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I remember going, okay, I need to go home. And I went home, and I sat on the couch, and I just kind of flopped on the couch for a second and just kind of just let out a big sigh, got up, got dressed, put on a jacket and tie, and went back knowing that I had to deal with reporters and TV and everything. And was there at 7 o'clock in the morning. This is now almost 24 hours of us doing this, and just, never mourned, never, just because I just do it, get it done, get moving.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
The show must go on.
I can't imagine having to deal
The show
with,
must go
with
on,
the emotional
kind of
part
thing.
of it of a friend.
Right.
And someone you love,
Yep.
and then having to also now, I have to deal with the business end
Right.
of things as well.
Yeah, the show must go on. It was kind of the
show.
mentality I had to have, and I just kind of just
And
did
I would
it.
imagine that Andy would have wanted it that
Right.
way.
Oh, yeah,
He
absolutely.
Absolutely. Probably would have said so.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. And I could talk about. We could fill up the rest of this podcast with Andy, but I don't want to. I would like to do that. Maybe someday we will.
We
Just
could
do-
have,
just do
we could
an-
have an Andy special.
Just do an Andy special. But
I mean, he had his own cab driver. I mean, come on, Gene, for God's sake. Before there was Uber, he had his own cab.
own cab
He
driver.
had Gene, for God's sakes. He would be like, anywhere we'd go, we'd need to get a cab. He'd be like, I'll call Gene.
I'll call
It didn't
Gene.
matter if it was morning, noon, or night.
No,
This
he had a
guy,
guy.
I was like, does this guy never
Andy
sleep?
had a guy before having a guy was a thing.
It was,
Yeah.
seriously. He had
Yeah.
Gene.
He had Gene.
He had Gene in yellow cab, and I never could understand that. Literally, it would be morning, noon, or night. 5 o'clock in the morning, here's Gene.
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night, here's Gene. I'm like, does this guy ever sleep?
No,
Gene.
He's on constant.
He really,
Andy call.
he was on constant Andy call. He was his own personal Uber.
Oh man, what a beautiful soul he was. CD 1025 and CD 101.
101, 102, whatever it takes.
101, 102, whatever it takes. Through the years, has always been in popular polls and whatnot, gets voted as favorite radio station.
Right.
Over and over again.
Sure.
Can you tell me, from a business sense, has that, it's successful as a favorite radio station, but does it apply to financial success as well? And if not, why?
Well, I think it's twofold. Yes, it's great that we're number one. It's great that we're voted most popular. But the economy of scale as a standalone radio station creates its own unfavorable parts. Because, you know, the complex algorithms of how radio works when it comes to ad buying.
Yes.
I'm only at one station, so I can only run so many commercials. I can't clear, you know, more commercials than putting them onto 4 other radio stations.
Right. You got one entity.
I got one entity. So I can be super popular and everyone loves us, but if I can't clear spots because I only have so many commercials in the 7 o'clock hour,
Right.
I can't make more money because I can't invent minutes.
You can't. There's only so
That'd
many
be
minutes
awesome.
in an hour.
Right.
He'd be a
Yeah,
genius.
well,
if he
I
could
mean,
figure
no,
that
I mean,
out.
Right.
it makes sense, but
Right.
is that frustrating?
Sure, absolutely.
Is that frustrating to
Absolutely.
be known as the eclectic popular favorite
Sure.
and not have that translate from, and I'm talking strictly from a business sense.
Oh, yes.
To not have that be able to translate into millions of dollars.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. Millions of dollars would be wonderful. But you know, we are a hardware store in the world of Lowe's and Home Depot. You know, we are the standalone Zettler hardware store in the world of Home Depot, Menards, and
And if I
Lowe's.
put it like in food terms, just to keep seriously, you have a very eclectic menu.
Yes.
You have a very eclectic menu. You have music that some people know and some people
Correct.
get introduced to for the first time.
Right.
You break in new artists that
Absolutely.
people never heard of.
Yep.
Do you ever stop to think that maybe, you know, does it ever stop you and you wonder, like, could I make more if I got away from the eclectic menu and sold burger and fries like the other guys?
Sure. Yes,
I
we
mean-
could. We absolutely could. We absolutely could make and be widely successful financially if we sold burger and fries.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so why don't you?
Honestly,
And once again, I'm being devil's advocate
No,
because
honestly-
I don't want you to.
Honestly,
but you
Please
know,
don't, by the way.
about 10 years into the radio station's life at CD 101, then owner Roger Vaughn and the general manager Terry Malloy, I got to sit in on this meeting, and they brought in some smart people. People that were in the community and not in the community, that were in radio, not in radio, bankers, lawyers, you know, CPAs, the whole bit. And okay, we've done this for 10 years. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? What's next? How do we evolve? So forth and so on. I don't remember that meeting whatsoever. I remember a question. I remember the one question that was posed. Do we grow old with our listeners, or do we let our listeners pass through us? And pretty much unanimously, all of us, me included, agreed we let our listeners pass through us, meaning that we continue with new music. We don't just stop and pick a 10-year, span of time and say,
Sure.
here's the music we play forever. And that's it. We've got a great big audience, and we take them with us to the friggin' grave. We said no. We let the audience pass through us. We know it's going to be harder. We know we're going to have to acquire a new audience constantly. The acquisition rate is going to have to be always on because Columbus has a 20% turnover.
Right.
If you believe that. I mean, that's 400,000 people a year for 2 million people. That's insane. But we're going to have to constantly reinvent ourselves every single day. We're going to have to change, grow, adapt, and overcome every day. And we agreed when we were 10 years old to do that. We're almost 30, and we still believe that that's the only way to go because we've sort of set ourselves up for that.
Right.
People looked for us as a tastemaker. They look to us as someone that is a music sort of savant. We help curate your content.
Right.
We introduce you to a band that, if it's not 500,000 spins or 1 million views, these corporate stations aren't playing them. They've got to be on YouTube and have 1 million downloads.
I understand.
And they don't do it. We're going to take a band that you've never heard of and we go, wow, that sounds great. Let's try it and break that band. And if it works, great. We get it. If we don't, okay, we tried. And we'll miss some too. We've missed some over the years.
It's got to be a rare bird, though, especially in these days, especially to stick to the eclectic and the new and so forth. And
there's not
a
lot of us.
I would imagine bands, because to get into the music industry now, if we decided as a group right here to start a band right now in this day and age, that would be like, what the fuck are we thinking?
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
You have to be good. You have to be good at your craft. You have to be good at marketing. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. I mean, you have to, even as a garage band, these kids have to market themselves to shit because
beyond what it used to be
absolutely
20 years ago.
Yep, absolutely. Because, between, Bandcamp and Facebook and every social media platform imaginable, they have to be fluent in that. And they've got to get their stuff pushed out there because there's so many other bands that are out there doing the same thing. They need to be better. They need to practice. They need to have good lyrics. They've got to, make money because, again, the record companies aren't throwing $1 million at any band anymore.
Nobody's doing that anymore.
Right. And, and it's funny.
Is that frustrating? Is it frustrating the fact that the music industry has changed so much in the last, just say in the last 10 years? Does it make your job? Does it make your world harder?
Yes and no. I mean, we've evolved with it too. We've had to, it's funny. I love telling the story that there's the two incidents that always stick out that I always say, look, every band was a local band once.
At one point.
Okay.
Sure.
At one point. And I always love the fact that, look, we break bands and it matters if you play them on radio. The first example is that there's a band called Jungle. Okay. May or may not know who they are.
I do not.
But some years back, we were playing this band Jungle. They played Bonnaroo a couple years ago, main stage, or the side stages. Big crowd. They just did a tour, sold out the Newport. Great band. They had played in Chicago the night before to an audience of 60 people. 60. We had them play a low-dose show because they're a baby band, breaking a baby band. They came to Columbus, Ohio, and played
a baby band.
Breaking, new band.
That's what you
Yeah,
call them?
a baby band.
Baby band.
A baby band.
Yeah,
They're new. They're new. They're sparkling. They're baby
Still
band.
pooping their pants.
Exactly.
And trying to figure things out.
Right.
All right.
Signed by the label. They played Chicago for 60 people. Chicago, big city, right?
Sure.
Columbus, Ohio, they played the next night. 800 people at the Newport Music Hall.
Right.
And I'll never forget, Tom, the lead singer, was like, mate, he's like, this is crazy. They're from England. He's like, mate, this is crazy. He's like, well, Columbus, Ohio, I've never heard of this place. He's like, this is insane, mate. Just, how is this possible? How did this happen? And literally the answer was, we play you.
We play you on the radio.
We play you. And we've been playing them for weeks, and people thought they were great. So we want to see a new band, this breaking band. Come and see them. And boom. 800 people.
And that is one of the
60.
cool things about Columbus. If you play somebody on your station and people like it, and when they find out they're coming to town,
they'll come see them.
They'll come see them.
Right.
And then how do you decide? Do you have a team? You have a music director? What?
All of the above.
Yeah.
There's a music team. We actually have music meetings on Wednesdays, which is, the program director, assistant program director, music director, and then like record guys come in. guests come in, staff sits in, people off the street, and they listen to the
If you like the music,
Yep.
if they're going to draw, I mean, what's, everything.
Do we like it? They rank it, believe it or not. They sit there with 1 through 10. And I always tell people, if you're in a band and you come to a music meeting, make sure you come with thick skin. Because while you may have poured your heart and soul and they're like, it's a 10. They're sitting there and all of a sudden they listen for the hook and they're like, 3, 2, 5, 3. And, they're pouty lipping like, like, that's my baby.
It's everything I got. I'm never going to get any better than this.
Right, exactly.
And I'm a 3.
Yeah, exactly. And it's brutal because, they're trying to listen to 20 or 30 songs in like a half hour
That's probably
period.
more kind than most people.
Man.
So, I don't sit in those meetings. So I'm like, oh, dude, those are rough.
Well, that's cool. I mean, but in theory, you give hope to the average garage band who, if they got it, they got it.
The second sort of part of that story is, so, people come down to the radio station all the time. We have a bar downstairs and a bar upstairs, and there's a kid.
How's that work out, by the way?
There's a lot of drinking.
Having a bar at a radio
drinking may be
station.
involved.
You know how many years I tried to get a wet bar put in the studio?
The bottom drawer is still
we have
there.
a full bar, not just a wet bar. I've got a full paid bar upstairs.
I just wanted a little wet bar in the studio.
We got it. It's there.
Something,
It didn't prevent us from drinking.
Something that I could actually, take a nip during the commercial-free hour of music. Or to get me through the Michael Bolton, Celine Dion years back in the beginning. Yeah.
Shiver.
Anyway,
But,
I digress.
So there was a kid sitting at the bar. And basically, I said, hey, what's up, man? Can I get you coffee, water, or anything? No, cool, great. A couple weeks later, here's this kid sitting at the bar again. I'm like, oh, what's up, man? Here for a music meeting? Oh, yeah, cool, whatever. What's your name, man? Kevin. Cool, whatever. A couple weeks later, here's this Kevin kid again. And I'm like, what's up, man? I was like, oh, you're back again? I said, oh, you in a band or something? Yeah, I'm here in a band. I have to listen to my music. I was like, oh, cool, what band are you in? I'm in a band called Walk the Moon.
Oh, shit.
They weren't signed yet.
They weren't signed?
They weren't signed yet. He was pushing his music. He was hustling, coming to the radio station, trying to get on the air. Him and his dad would call like incessantly to try and get on the top 5 at 5.
Him and his dad.
His dad.
That is so cool and refreshing to hear.
Him and his dad would
a dad that believes in his son and actually, I'm going to help you.
Right. They would call all day long to try and get on the top 5 at 5. And when they finally got on the radio station, he's like, we made it. We're on the radio station. And they weren't even signed to a label yet. And that was their goal. He figured if he was on the radio, he made it. And now, the kind of the rest of the story is huge. And it's funny because probably half a year back, somebody sent me a tape from a radio station out in LA that Kevin was telling that story about his humble beginnings in this radio station in Columbus, Ohio. So, every band has to start somewhere. So right. I always sort of equate that, look, somebody took a chance on this crazy dude from New Jersey and let them work at the radio station. And we always take that chance of, that crazy dude or girl that plays in a band, give them a chance. I mean, if the world likes them, then why shouldn't they be exposed and succeed? If not, well, popular culture will tell you otherwise.
Speaking of success, what popped into your crazy head to decide to purchase the radio station? This crazy kid from New Jersey who didn't go to school for a couple of years because he was too immature, decides at one point after being a promotions intern and then working his way up to general manager, decides, I think I want to buy this radio station. Excuse me, because we're friends. What the fuck were you thinking?
Honestly,
if you had not bought it, were you concerned that somebody else would buy it and fuck it up?
No.
Then what
I was
was the
concerned
reason?
that it would be gone.
It had just gone completely.
Yes.
And so your decision to purchase it and continue to make it grow was motivated by the simple fact that you did not want it to go away?
And that I would not have a job. And I didn't want to do something else at that point in my life. I'd been doing it for 20 years.
You've been doing it for 20 years, but now you're going to buy it. Now it's yours.
Well, then what? But I mean, again,
And, if you're a general manager at a radio station and somebody above you decides to sell it or get rid of it,
you're fired. Get out.
You're fired. But now you decide to buy it. You're responsible for everybody.
Yeah. Kind of learned that.
You're responsible for everybody.
Yep.
You're responsible for lives and paychecks and supper on the table for people.
Yeah.
Did you know that going in? Did you know you would have that load to carry?
Yes and no. Yes. I mean, I went into it with my eyes wide open. I didn't want it to go away, and I enjoy what I do, and I didn't want to not do it anymore. So, did I go into it, 100% like, I know exactly what I'm doing? No, not at all, because I've never owned a company. I've never run a company, every single aspect of it. I managed it, but I didn't run it.
Different.
Totally
Absolutely different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because now it's yours.
Oh, it's mine.
It's yours.
Oh, and you get to own it.
Own it.
And those words are an onus right there. You own it. Because when you drop that glass on the floor and it shatters and someone goes, "Who did that?" And you say, "I did." You own it.
You own it.
When people's lives are on the stake and it's like, you got to make payroll. Guess
Right.
what? You own it.
You own it.
So yeah, it's it's very real.
Can you do you have a blueprint? Do you moving forward to the future? I mean, do you know what you want to aspire to? What would you like to see happen with the radio station? Aside from the fact, of course, increasing revenues and
Sure.
and all the other stuff that goes along with that.
Well, I mean, again, it's an ever moving target. We have to adapt and overcome every day because the music landscape changes.
How do you feel about everybody says, and for years they've been bemoaning
Oh,
the fact
radio's
that
dead.
terrestrial radio, especially
Well.
with Spotify and iTunes and Pandora and Sirius and so forth, which I think is bullshit. Terrestrial radio, I think, will always have its
Always.
place in the music world.
I have a sort of my predetermined things I love to say. One, radio was the original social media
Right,
because we were immediate.
right.
Okay, we told you what's happening.
Yep.
Here's new song. Here's breaking news. Here's where the accident is. Here's where traffic is. Here's where the cop taking radar is.
Right.
Here's this great event happening this weekend. Here's a cause marketing event.
Correct.
So we are the original social media, and we still are because we're immediate. What's beautiful about radio still is I'm free. I don't cost you anything. You don't have any upcharge. You don't have a subscription service that keeps getting more and more expensive as you use more bandwidth. I'm free, and I'm also transportable. I'm in your car. You can put me on your little iPad. Your phone has an FM receiver in it. It doesn't cost anything, so you can take radio with you anywhere you want. So those things I think will help us continue and sustain for a long, long time.
Cool.
It doesn't require that you have to have a lot of bells and whistles. Your point of entry is nothing.
Explain that.
Well, it doesn't cost you anything to listen to radio.
Okay. All right. Your point of entry costs you nothing.
Costs you nothing, right?
Okay.
Also, we're a passive medium. You can drive and listen to the radio. You can't text, or at least you shouldn't while you drive. You shouldn't be watching YouTube videos, while you're
Right.
You can listen to the Whiskey Podcast, and I highly suggest that, especially this one. You can do that when you drive, but you can't watch it, or at least you shouldn't. You can also do lots of things when you're doing the radio. You want to have dinner, you can listen to music. You can't really watch TV and be engaged in a conversation,
Right.
but you can have music in the background and listen to it and be engaged in a conversation. You also don't remember, like I always use example, you don't remember your first kiss or your first car crash to that article you read or the newspaper story you read or the TV show you watched. It's connected to music.
Yeah, it is.
That's you never says, "Oh, that's our TV show." No, that's our song.
That's our song. All right.
That's our song.
Right. No.
So it has a very endearing place in people's, collective psyche, and music will always do that. And radio, I think, is always going to be part of that because, again, we're immediate, we're free, we're transportable, and as a passive medium, we don't interrupt your lives; we enhance it.
Do you still love it?
I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You still love it? Still got the passion for
Oh,
it?
absolutely.
You
There's
still-
days I get up and I'm like, oh my God.
I bet. Because as life has gone on, you got married, you had a kid.
Oh, yeah.
You have other
Life interrupts.
Yeah, life interrupts.
Life interrupts.
Life interrupts. Life enhances. Life
Yeah.
slows you down. I mean,
Sure.
it throws roadblocks, obstacles, whatever
Absolutely.
the case might be. You're not the same intern in promotions you were.
I definitely can go out 5 nights a week, but I feel it a lot more. I will tell you that for certain. It's a little harder to maintain that pace.
Well, I'm glad that we had our moments through the years.
Oh, absolutely. And we will continue to moment.
Oh, this is a moment as far as I'm concerned.
We'll continue to
moment.
So
I got what I consider to be some of the business aspect, and I think people will find this very interesting, especially in the position you're at now. But I wanted to just ask you a couple of round robin questions before we get off and wrap this up. First of all, did you even sip the Old Scout yet? What'd you think of the Old Scout?
I like it.
I got to tell you,
get cubey,
Johnny. Yeah, the Old Scout American whiskey. I wasn't on a person, but the 107. It's
very nice.
It's pretty damn smooth. It's kind of sweet.
It is very sweet.
It's very sweet and it goes down really smooth. So, I love Old Scout. I love almost everything that they've done. I applause, thumbs up. You know, if whiskey was a song, I would play you on the radio.
Passively. And Smooth Ambler, that's the distillery that makes it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got some good stuff,
that's the
too.
company.
Because we've had some other Smooth
That's the
Ambler
company. Like I said, the part of it came from Indiana, part of it came from Tennessee.
Got you.
Yeah, but Smooth Ambler are there's people that put
Blend.
this shit that blend
The
and put this shit
mixologists.
together.
The mixologists, right?
Yeah.
The guys
So,
that are smarter than us.
A couple of fun questions. Your very first concert. What was your first concert ever?
Really?
Yeah, man. You have to remember your first.
Liza Minnelli.
Not the answer I thought. Not the answer I thought would come from a guy from Clark, New Jersey, who would go to New York City to CBGB. I did not think that Liza Minnelli would be your first concert ever. Really?
Worcester, Massachusetts.
Why?
Worcester, Massachusetts. It was my dad was from Massachusetts in Worcester. My cousin Steven.
I've never seen him laugh this hard. Sorry,
I
Randy.
can't believe that Randy Malloy's first concert was Liza with a Z.
Liza with a Z. Yep.
Did you like it?
I was like 11.
You loved it.
I was like 11.
You loved it.
I think I was like 11.
Come to the cabaret show.
I went. My cousin Steven, who lives out in San Francisco, his friend Paul. It was like Thanksgiving. I didn't want to be with the damn family anymore, and they're like, I'm like, take me. And they're like 20-year-old guys. They're like, well, take your younger cousin. And they were just like, are you kidding me? So they're like smoking joints, getting high, getting drunk, and they took me to Liza Minnelli at the Worcester Forum.
You know, let's take the high road and say that makes you that much more well-rounded.
Absolutely, I'm completely well-rounded.
You know what?
I think I had to drive the car home that night though.
At 11?
At 11.
At 11?
Yeah, they were just shitbags.
They were. You're driving home
yeah.
drunk and people partied at the Liza Minnelli.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I remember driving.
My first concert was Eagles.
Oh, there you go.
Eagles and the Doobie Brothers and Average White Band opening.
How cool for you.
There you go.
That was mine. Favorite concert ever. That's not fair. I know it's not a fair question.
Ones.
That's a toughie.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Yeah,
one that affected you. One that resonated. One that like, wow. I was so glad I was here. Liza Minnelli.
Come to the cabaret, my friend.
I'm gonna sing my mother's favorite song that she hated, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow."
Phew. I don't know. That's a hard one. I mean, I've seen a lot of great shows over the years.
I'll cut you some slack. Maybe top 3.
Well, I saw the Ramones play.
Oh, awesome!
I've seen her playing close, but when I saw them in New York, that was a great one. I saw U2 play the Super Bowl after 9/11. And that was a really, really kind of an emotional show. And I've seen U2, probably a dozen times over the years. And that was a really
but that one, after everything was going on in the country.
Yeah, and they put they scrolled the names of all the people that lost their lives, and that was in the Superdome. It was a pretty intense one, and probably one of the more memorable one was it was WOMAD, so it wasn't a single artist. It was Peter Gabriel who did the World of Modern Art and Dance, and it was at Buckeye Lake. And at the time, Jane Purcell, it was Peter Gabriel, Lenny Kravitz, Sinead O'Connor, the drummers of Burundi, and a whole bunch of people. Yeah. This was early in my life. This was like 94, I think.
Sure.
And Wendy Steele, I think had still been around, but Jane Purcell was the program director, and loved Jane to death, and she's a huge Peter Gabriel fan. And she was going to get to meet Peter Gabriel, and she was just like, you know what, you go do stage announcements. And I was the promo guy. I'm like, okay. So, I got up on stage at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and it was like, hey, how's everyone doing? And, it's like 30 people out in this field of 50,000, like, I'm like, yeah, I'm a little hungover too.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm sure the day will get better. Everyone enjoy. Woo. By the time the day went on, and I'm introducing Lenny Kravitz, and there's 50,000 people out there and people chanting, Randy, Randy. And it was just, because I was the MC all day.
Sure.
And I'm trying to do stand up and have fun and, keep people entertained.
You got an audience.
Right, I got an audience. I was like,
yay, I can do this.
The drummers of Burundi spoke Swahili. And that was the blow-off language I took in college. So I heard them speaking, and I said, Hodi, Hodi. And he goes, Hodi, Hodi. I said, Jumbo. He goes, sorry, Jana. And next thing you know, having a conversation with this guy from Burundi. And Peter Gabriel and Lenny Kravitz, they're all kind of standing there watching me have this conversation. He's like, my brother, I love you. And he's like hugging me, and they're just like, holy crap. And next thing you know, I get to party with Lenny Kravitz.
Oh, wow.
And, I got pictures of me hanging out with Sinead O'Connor with her skinhead, and she did smoke cigarettes like a chain smoker, one after the other.
Wow.
And it's just one of those really special sort of,
Sure.
things where it just, it sort of elevated to a different plateau. But just because I spoke Swahili, so who knew? You never know, those crazy skills come in handy someday.
Yes, they do. Oh, yeah. So you never know when your skill set's going to kick in and become necessary. People that you didn't see that have now departed. Are you sorry that you never saw? I'm sorry I never got to see.
Yeah, I never got to see Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Would have really liked to see Queen. I would like to see The Doors.
Yeah.
I would really like to see The Doors.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. That would have been, especially when I think about us in our younger days.
Yeah.
That would have been a band we all would have related to.
Yeah, I would have dug that.
Dug that big time.
Yeah.
All right. The Doors, Queen, anybody else?
Not really. I mean, I got to see most of them over the years.
And let me ask you this, bucket list now, is there anybody that you still want to see that you haven't, that is still with us? And I mean,
not yet.
Over the course of the years, you've seen just
I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen from Bowie to, Neil Young, I've got to meet all those guys. I mean, Lou Reed, and I got to see and meet most of those guys over the years.
You might have to come back and just do a podcast about that.
Oh, the crazy stuff. I mean,
take all the business aspect of this aside and just talk about stories.
I'll tell you a funny story, and I'll try and make it brief. But my brevity is not my strong suit.
I understand.
I tell everyone.
Mine either.
Very, very early on in my career, very early on with the radio station, I was probably this is just past intern, but working. The DJs didn't do a lot of the stuff, so the promotions guys did a lot of the MC stuff.
Right.
So one of the times I got to go MC a show at the Newport Music Hall. And it was a reggae show. So I'm there. I'll remember it was Dighton Charlemagne. And I'm backstage and catering. So I'm, I ate some pasta and we have just great food. And these guys are rolling blunts backstage like mad, using like backwoods. They're unrolling them. I'm like fascinated by watching these guys do this. They're like, you want to come? I'm like, no, man, I can't get high. I gotta, I'm going to do the stage announcements. I'm like, new to station. I'm like, I don't want to do anything, fucked up. And I'm sitting back there and I'm just hanging out and I'm talking and like, Cliff Hardy was there. And there was a whole bunch of people that, I still know the names and stuff. And I'm sitting there eating and the one goes, oh, man, be careful. I'm like, what? He goes, those are strong, man. I'm like, halfway through a brownie. And I'm like, he's like, I was like, what, the brownie? He goes, yeah, man, be careful. I was like, this is my second one. I'm like, oh shit. So I'm basically standing backstage now, freaking out that, I'm going to get completely baked. And lo and behold, okay, all right, you're on. They pull the curtain out and it was like a fisheye lens. And I like step out onto the stage and it's dead quiet. The Newport Music Hall, 2,000 people, sold out, standalone mic in the middle of the stage at the front. And I walk up and it's like, and I'm like, hi, I'm Randy CD101 Malloy. And I just stop and everyone looks at me. You're going to hear a pin drop. And I'll always remember I just said, I ate a brownie. And the whole place just erupted.
Was it pop brownie or hash brownie?
I don't even know.
Yeah. That was one of my old jokes.
And I literally...
What if you eat a hash brownie? You get the munchies,
right.
and all you got left to eat is a hash brown.
Right. And I just stumbled off stage and I'm like, I'm so fucking fired.
It endeared you more.
And I just always remember that because it was just one of those things I was like,
oh God, we gotta wrap things up, dude. Seriously, I would love to have you back just to talk about
absolutely
all the artists and stories.
Oh, there's so many fun ones.
We can make it.
There's good ones. There's bad ones.
We can make it just a simple.
Some of the adventures of Andy and I.
Yeah,
oh,
I mean, there's so much. There's so much we're leaving on the table, but we'll save it for another podcast.
And that's the one where I may say I need an edit afterwards. Going, maybe I should have told that one.
The podcast remorse. I don't think there's been any podcast remorse.
No, not tonight, but telling the stories there might be.
Yeah, that might be. Our guest. Terrific guest, by the way. Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. I truly appreciate it. I do feel blessed, and I am very grateful for being able to do this for all the years that I have, as I know you are very grateful for your 24 years doing it with Sonny.
I appreciate that too, man.
And I appreciate our friendship for all these years.
It's been a good friendship.
You're a really, really genuine good guy, and I've always enjoyed our interactions together over the years, whether it's hanging out with the boys, playing cards, drinking, or whatever. But I've always found it to be one of the really good ones.
We've had a very
and I appreciate it.
We've had a very eclectic history.
Absolutely.
Over the years.
Shenanigans may be involved.
Shenanigans may be involved.
Right. I believe I was poor judgment.
And they were.
Yes.
Yeah. Because one of our good friends, Paul Anthony, worked at your radio station for a while.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And I'm putting his name in there now just so I can.
So you can tell him he needs to listen.
So I can
exactly. Paulie, we mentioned you. He'll have to listen to the whole damn thing and be like, Paulie, we're mentioning you.
Exactly.
I knew that. I figured that out.
I was going to slip that in there.
Totally.
Just to make that little fucker listen to the whole goddamn thing. All the way.
Yep.
All the way through.
Got it.
They just mentioned me at the end. So there. Hey, Paulie, love you. Fuck you.
Love you.
We got you. We got you. The guest bottle has been Old Scout 107, and we approve. Yeah. This is Johnny. Thank you for picking us up in Kentucky. I appreciate that. That was good stuff. And Greg Hansberry, I know you want to go through the love list, through the love list one more time before we say goodbye.
Well, of course, you can watch this podcast on YouTube. Subscribe at Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis.
Thank you.
Archived episodes there. Twitter, Whiskey Biz Show.
Yeah.
Which is new, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Got that going for us.
I was always pushing it on at Dino Trip. That's my Twitter handle, but I was always pushing Whiskey Business on that. And I was like, well, I just...
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we're on the Facebook. Like us.
On
Instagram,
the Facebook.
The Facebook. On the Instagram.
Are we on the Facebook, Grandpa?
It's on the www. Instagram, Whiskey Business
like
Podcast. The Gout. And subscribe and rate and review us on iTunes, please, and thank you.
Yeah, and for those of you who have done that, thank you. There's been some very lovely, very positive reviews on everything, and we appreciate that. And I appreciate you. I want to say that Whiskey Business is the Never the Luck production. Once again, produced audio-wise by this guy right here. And on the video side, there you go, John Whitney. Joe, here's a little fun thing that you might not hear on the audio portion because Hansberry likes to edit things and keep tight. But on this, the YouTube portion, we had a podcast last night that we banked for St. Patty's Day with our friend Barry Chandler, and we drank a lot of Irish whiskey last night. So
he is Irish.
He is Irish. And I've not heard a word out of John Whitney tonight. as a result of that. That podcast with Barry Chandler will show up the week of St. Patty's Day. This one with Randy Malloy, you're going to see very soon, as it will drop in the next few days. So thank you, brother, so much for that. I appreciate it. So much. Love you. Love what you do, and love your stick-to-itiveness throughout everything, man.
Either that or I'm stubborn and stupid.
Well, sometimes stubborn and stupid is
Right.
is the way to go. Is the way to go, and is what you are.
Right.
And that ain't a bad thing.
Yeah.
So, my friends, until the next bottle, see ya.